babysitting.
No problem.
All right.
This
And
is
we're
such.
back.
Eating now.
Yep. Okay. We are back. Another week, back to the grind. We just finished chapter 4, talking about how to bring upon Zahiros to our lives, to ourselves. And in chapter 5, the Ramchal is going to go through the factors that not just that undermine the ability to be able to build and work on one's Zahiros within themselves, but also how to avoid them and what a person can do as a remedy. So I find this chapter to have a lot of very practical advice, very direct advice for us that we can really build into our lives. We'll see how many we can get through today. Here we go. So we're on page 31 for those who have the Zach. And buckle up. Here we go. There are 3 factors that undermine the virtue, being Zahiros, and prevent one from obtaining it. The first one is the involvement and preoccupation with worldly matters. That's number 1. The second, frivolity and derision, which I don't know. I'm gonna say in Hebrew, hasachoik va'leitzan. So people who basically are laughing or jesters and clowns. People act like clowns. And number 3 is bad company or evil friends. So we shall discuss each one of these in turn. So these are the 3 elements that he's saying that if a person gets involved in these things, it will directly impact their ability to have this element of this midah of zahiros upon them. And the worst part is, again,
Wait, what's the third one?
the third one is bad friends, bad company, people you surround yourself with. So let's dive into the very first one. So we've mentioned involving the preoccupation previously. When a person is preoccupied with worldly matters, his thoughts become constricted by the pressures that are imposed upon him, and it becomes impossible to pay attention to one's actions. But we did mention, we talked about this at length in, I believe, chapter 2, where we talked about how, right, this is what the Yetzer Hara does. He gets a person so involved in things that when your brain is preoccupied, a person can only focus on one thing at a time. So when a person's brain is so caught up in a certain subject, it's very hard. There's a lot of distraction. Before you know it, we use the example of what Paro did to the Jewish people who were fantasizing, in his words, about going off on a 3-day journey to serve Hashem. So I'm going to make the word harder and harder and harder their work. So that way they don't even have the time to contemplate or think about anything else, right? So our sages of blessed memory have said they were moved to comment in Pirkei Avos 4:12, limit your other involvement and involved with the Torah. It is true, of course, that worldly involvement is necessary for one's livelihood. However, this shouldn't necessitate increasing one's involvement to such an extent that it prevents him from serving the eternal. This is, in a nutshell, pretty much the problem with the generation today, especially with social media. But Rav Noach Weinberg highlights this beautifully in his book, Wisdom for the Living. He talks about in his Pirush on Bereshis. In front, he goes through, the a person should understand why they're living and what they're living for. So what are you alive for? And he goes through the motions, right? A person says, "Oh, you know what I got to do is I got to go to school. I got to go to college. Why? I got to go to college because I got to get educated so I can get a good job. Why do you need a good job? I need to get money. Why do you need money? So I can support my family. Why? So I can send my kids to college." And on and on and on, the rotation, the circle goes and goes and goes and goes, where the means to the end becomes the end in and of itself. And this is really what's destructive. We have to remember that we were created as human beings, put here on this earth. And our job is to connect and reveal Hashem's light and connect with Hashem and bask in the rays of godliness. And that's what our job is here in this world. And Adam Arishon messed it up. He messed around with the tree. And because of his futzing around, we ended up, he was getting cursed and he had to work now. No longer will his food be provided for him. Now he's going to have to go do it himself. And that occupies his time. The reason, and this is such a fundamental, this is not my opinion, this is the correct answer for any Yid out there, and I will get to it right after Chaya Suri's question.
Sorry, maybe you were gonna say, but it is this like kind of saying like don't make friends with non-Jewish people?
No.
You're talking about like involvement and like preoccupation with like the world of like not Judaism, but like there's no way if you have only non-Jewish friends and you only surround yourself with non-Jewish like that's like immediately what I thought when you said
That
that.
that might be true. No, but that's not what I'm talking about because surrounding it, first of all, that's just a clash of values. we're warned about the influence of the nations around us and stuff like that. There is no way that the non-Jews are working towards the same thing that you're working towards. If you understand what it is to be a Yid and what we're fighting for, we're working to accomplish a certain mission that Hashem gave us. The non-Jews are not, right? That's not their mission. They're focused on other things, right? There could be overlap, right? They can still have traditional family values and morality and be anti things that are immoral for sure, and that could overlap. But that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about worldly matters. We're not talking about negative things either. We're talking about just matters of the world. And the Neshama came from the higher realm. Our body is from this world. And when we get involved in worldly matters, and you name it, there's a al chet shechatanu for it on Yom Kippur. Anything that we do, sleeping, eating, right? Anything, enjoyment, laughter. These are things that could be a good thing, and yet they can distort us because they're getting too involved in worldly matters. The best example I could possibly think about, and I'll get back to just before I say it, is the answer of the unequivocal objective answer that a Jew's focus in life needs to be in the pursuit of connecting with the eternal, connecting with Hashem. Everything else is a side second. I think we mentioned it in another chapter, right? Your goal is to be able to connect with Hashem and advance the mission of the Jewish people, which is revealing God's light in this world and through the methodology in which we do it, and to keep Torah mitzvos, love Hashem, fear Hashem, etc. So everything that we do, everything, no matter what it is, has to be in the context of facilitating us in our mission. What do I mean? Because again, this is the number one prime example. What I'm talking about is what people get lost in worldly matters. We're talking about the pursuit of money. The pursuit of money. Why does everyone want to be rich? Do you hear that people say like, "Oh, I'm okay with not making a lot of money. I'm okay just making, the basics of what I need." There is this obsession, especially amongst teenagers, to go and make a lot of money. Why? The whole reason we make money, we have a job, and it's not to say that we shouldn't enjoy the career that we have, or the work that we do. The reason we work and make money was a curse from Adam Rishon. It's so that we can provide ourselves the necessity of living, food, shelter, medical needs that we don't. Because how can a person connect to Hashem, reveal the light of the eternal, and fulfill the mission of the Jewish people when you're figuring out where you're going to get your next meal? You can't. It's Maslow's hierarchy of needs. At the top of that pyramid is connecting with Hashem. It's what we're here for. It's the mission of the Jewish people that we're trying to advance. All those things, the security and the essentials, the needs, all those things that we stand on it. So of course I'm going to go out and get a job. Of course I'm going to make money. Of course I'm going to feed my family. Because how could I feed my family if I don't have a job, if I don't have income? I have to take care of those basics. If I don't know where I'm sleeping tonight, my entire mind is preoccupied with those things. The idea of being comfortable is not so that we can enjoy comfort in and of itself. It's that I don't have to think and worry and stress and spend my time figuring out how am I going to pay for the things that I have, my car payments or my house payments, so that way I can focus on the things that truly matter. That's why we do what we do. And the entire thing has become distorted in America like crazy, like crazy. I did this when I was teaching in my Maimonides in the Sunday school. I remember asking, I was like, let's define, right? When you ask people like, why do you want to make money? And they always throw this word around, comfort. Comfort is the enemy of progress. Comfort is the most disastrous thing. We were enslaved for 210 years in Egypt. 209 of those years, depending on who you ask, we're suffering. And in 1 year of comfort, because when the plague started and we got all comfy dumpy, and everything was cool and chilling, we lost 80% of the Jewish people to assimilation. Comfort is the enemy of progress. It's the enemy of growth. There is something healthy about being uncomfortable so that you're never complacent. But we again, comfortable so you don't have to be like distracted with those things so you can focus on what really matters. But the goal in life today in America is I want to be comfortable. That's the end. That's the in and of itself. My goal is to work really, really hard, make a lot of money, so that way I don't have to exert any energy, effort, or be uncomfortable ever again. Because if you're uncomfortable at something, hey, there's an app for that. You can swipe your credit card and you can go on Amazon and you can take away that discomfort no matter what it is. No matter what it is. That is the new American dream. That's what we do. Now that is extremely toxic. So in this Sunday school, I asked them to define what comfort is. And the conclusion, this is like amazing. It's like you think about our grandparents, like there's no such thing as a walk-in closet. I said to them, I was like, you know, who's who here, who here has less than 5 pairs of shoes? I'm talking to a room of like 30 kids. right? There's always that one smart toches who like he raises, oh me, yeah, but I said that's by choice. You can go into a Walmart and you can buy a pair of shoes for $6. Don't tell me that you can't afford more. You're like they don't have to be good shoes, but anyone can afford 5 pairs of shoes, you know? So, but like our grandparents, they had one pair of shoes. Like it was crazy. Today, the standards of what we think comfort is has totally radically changed. Literally. Look at the kids in your class yourself. Look in your closet. How many pairs of shoes do you have? Our standards of what we think is normal. So I said, let's define comfort. What is, let's figure out exactly, okay, is a studio apartment, is that comfortable? No, it's not comfortable. How about a one bedroom apartment? No, it's not comfortable. So we did the thing, we spoke about it for a little bit. And the maskana was, the end conclusion, that comfort by definition is a minimum of 5 bedrooms and 2 cars. This is the definition, right? As in, if I don't have that, right, I'm gonna freak out. I gotta figure out how to make more money. I gotta on the pursuit. It's Rav Akiva Tatz. He has a great mushal in Teenage Thinking Guide of Life. He on the second chapter of happiness, he uses a mushal about what I'm talking about. I don't know. You like smile and nodded. Anyway,
I'm in the chapter right now.
oh, actually, okay. So he uses the mushal of the truck driver, right? He says, okay, here's the goal. Your job, you must deliver the goods, the packages, and you must get to the place in which you're supposed to be. Great. But in order for this journey to be successful, you have to remember a few things. You have to remember all the traffic rules. You have to remember your safety. You have to remember to be well rested so you don't sleep. You have to do, and he gives them a long list of all the different things you have to do. You have to go to the weight station, whatever it is. It's a 3 day journey. Okay, fine. So he's going over and he's remembering all the things he has to do, and he goes on his journey. And okay, he comes back after the 3 day journey, and he goes to him. He goes, how was the trip? He goes, it's amazing. I made sure I was well rested. I had good air in the tires. I filled up when I was 3 quarters, like you said, and I wore my safety belt and I followed the traffic rules. I did the weights, everything like that. He goes, amazing, amazing. And you made sure to deliver the goods. And he goes, ooh, I forgot to deliver the goods. I was so focused on the things, right? None of those things mattered. The whole goal and the purpose of the mission was to be able to bring the goods and deliver them. And I didn't do that because I was so caught up in it. And that's the reality of people. They wake up one day in their 80s or the 90s and they're like, maybe I should go to shul on Yom Kippur. That's like an entire life of doing what? Everything we do is a detail that's meant to service and focus on ourselves, of our mission and what we're supposed to be. So it makes a lot of sense for a person to say, okay, getting involved in worldly matters will get me. What's the danger of it? Is being involved in worldly matters. It means that I become a connoisseur in the things of the world, and I become like I start to love them so much, and I have a sophisticated palate if you're a food person, right? Or I have the exotic wines or whatever it is. And again, these things aren't bad intrinsically. It's that when you putting your mental, I remember in ninth grade, I couldn't tell you a single pasuk in the Torah by heart. But I knew that I had the ability to name all 32 NFL football teams in under 15 seconds. I studied it. I practiced it in alphabetical order, right? And that was my thing. I was like, yo, check this out. I can do it. It's pretty cool, right? And I'm using my energy in this thing. And it's like, what do you, Hashem's sitting there going like, I am so confused, It's lahavdil. It's like lahavdil, lahavdil. But like I asked Gitzi, he's 4 years old. I tell him like, can you run upstairs and get me a diaper for Madcha? Go, 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 go. Okay, fine. Okay. And you see him, and then he gets to the steps, and like now it's a game. He starts like army crawling on the steps, and da, da, da. And by the time he's upstairs already, like he found a loose article of clothing on the steps, and he's playing with a sock. And before he's doing, and it's like I'm just gonna go get it myself. I feel like Hashem is sitting up there, and he's like, I put you on this world for a mission, and you're sitting there memorizing football teams. It's like again, there's nothing intrinsically wrong with having a hobby, but it has to be balanced. How do you know that something's not becoming destructive? How do you know, right? If I want to like kick back and like I want to relax, so I want to watch something on Netflix. Okay, but you're watching 27 hours of Netflix a day. I think it's safe to say you lost yourself at this point, right? We have a little bit of a problem. How on earth can you remain balanced and healthy in worldly pursuits if you lose the heroes? The only way to counteract that and do worldly things in a healthy, balanced way is when you have the heroes. But it's a catch-22 because the worldly involvement directly detracts from the Zahiros and what you're trying to build. So you have to be extremely careful. You have to always, always maintain this balance to make sure you're not losing yourself, right? That's how people lose track of like what the food they put in their mouth. They like you're not paying attention to your eating habits and things like that. Like anything of worldly matter, right? Sleeping schedules. And people are just like, you have the inability to wake up on time in the morning, right? There's a problem, right? You've indulged in your, maybe you should get a less comfortable mattress and less comfortable pillow. I don't know, but like, how do you make sure you don't lose sight of what the focus is and what you're trying to actually accomplish? And this is what exactly what he's talking about. Inherently, when a person gets involved, right, with um okay, okay, when a person gets involved directly with worldly pursuits, then it inherently detracts from it, and you see that exactly what's going on today. If I were to go to Hillel and start to talk to kids about the meaning of life, that conversation would last for a grand total of 20 seconds before they get back to which college am I getting into? How did we get there as a people? How did we get there as a people? Where you put more kavana and energy and effort into your college and which college you're getting into than the purpose of why you're here in the first place. How lost, how sad, dare I say pathetic. Like, it's sad. It's so nebuch. There's no awareness of that. There's no, it's just, meh. So what do we do? How on earth do we, right, maintain a balance or a healthy perspective? And it's going to say it right over here. To counter this, we've been commanded to designate specific times for Torah study. If a person doesn't want to lose themselves, I'll use the TJJ mashal here. Only one person, I think, not two, right? You guys will both get this, and hold on, Dasi's coming in, so she'll get it as well. Or maybe not. She's stuck in the joining. I don't know. TJJ is over, and TJJ is the most impactful, inspirational. You're there at the banquet and you're crying because you're just like, oh my God, I am infused with Hashem. Everything that matters is crystal clear. I'm in this moment of just absolute clarity and vacus, and life is amazing. And I get up there and say, it's nice. Yeah, basically. It's nice, but this is gonna fade. It's gonna fade. The message is that what should a person do during the year? You must consistently show up every single week to learning Torah. Now, how many kids were on TJJ? How many kids come to this year or go to Learn and Earn? Where and when are you koveim eating the Torah that you are setting aside designated time to learn Torah? That is the only way that you're going to anchor yourself because you're learning what we're talking about right now. If we're learning it, and you're consistent in your learning, that will ground you, that will anchor you. The Torah is our anchor and will not allow you to lose your freaking mind and go crazy. I watch literally generationally. There's always crazy fads, and people are dumb as bricks. And they come up with this Michigan, and some of them are recycled. These, like, now you hear people talking about socialism and communism again, because they obviously never met anybody who came from one of those countries, or they've probably never read a book before. And then they're all like, hey, it's a great idea. Let's take people's money and divide it out, and then it'll be fair and equal. And it's like, people lose their mind. I always wonder, like in Nazi Germany, like the whole German population, like I'm sorry, I'm not one of those believers that are just like, oh, they're all scared of the Nazis. Like, for the most part, the majority of the German, they were celebrating. They were with glee, so happy to what was happening to the Jews. So people lose their minds. Now we live in a day with the transgender movement, and you're just like, okay, these are certified doctors who are literally running with this idea that a boy can be a girl or a girl can be a boy. Yeah, it's like, I'm sorry, like I just, am I crazy? Am I, like, I feel like I'm being gaslighted the entire, like, crazy, crazy. How is it possible? Because that's what the mind is. People lose their stuff. They become crazy. Fads come along. People jump on boards with insane ideologies and crazy movements and ideas in their head. It's like, and you see it, just wild, crazy things. You look back at history and you're like, wow, that must have been a crazy time where people are throwing their kids in the fire or they were hunting down witches and burning them at the stake. And you're like, that's crazy. And then it's like, no, it's just, it picked the generation of the world. People lose their freaking minds. And the thing that anchors us throughout the generations, it's literally a spiritual plague, is the Torah. The Torah is an anchor that hooks you down and says, no, that's crazy, that's wild, that's stupid. Don't do that and stay true to yourself. Right? If a person lets go of Torah, they are taking the anchor out and they're allowing themselves to get thrashed around in a storm. It's the thing that literally it grounds us on a micro level and on a macro level. Just the world as a whole. The Torah is our anchor. It holds us down because it gives us a reality check. It gives us what to talk about, to be in tune with reality. Because again, it's very good to be in tune with reality and not just crazy nuts job. Hang on a second. We got to the day because I said I went to get my money for the trip because before that, my Oh, it's a direct message. I'm sorry for quasi reading that out loud. Um, the value of studying Torah is it allows us to stay anchored and to keep our head screwed on straight, that we don't lose our mind, you know? Where it's like, wow, I totally lost myself. Another great example, the guy who's like, he's working so hard for his family, Mr. CEO, and da, 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 and his kids can't stand him, and it's just like finally that implodes. They're in the kitchen on a Saturday, and just yells at him, "I hate you so much! I hate you so much!" And he turns around to him and he goes, "I work my butt off for you and this family." And the kid is just like, "I don't care about your money. I want a relationship with you." And it's like a reality check to the father. And he's just like, "How did I lose myself? I got so caught up and involved. Like I was working so hard for my family that I forgot to spend time with my family." I wanted to become a partner at the law firm. I was working 80 hours a week, and before you know it, you have no relationship with your kids. It's very easy to lose yourself in that pursuit, to totally, totally lose yourself. But again, the Torah is our anchor, and that's what's going to keep us locked down. We previously mentioned that the most essential thing for obtaining vigilance is Torah study, as we find in the statement of Rabbi Pinchas ben Yair in Gemara Avodah Zarah. Torah brings one to vigilance. It's that simple. Learning Torah allows you to be checked in with reality, and it will bring you to vigilance, to having that awareness. And without the vigilance would be unobtainable. This is what our sages of blessed memory have said. An ignorant person can never become a pious one, right? Because what does it mean to be pious? You follow the ways of the Torah. A person who's not learning those things is not their minds are going to be relegated to the moral compass of TikTok. That's going to be what's feeding their mind. I was watching an interview yesterday, and just like, yeah, I was very, very pro-Palestine. It's like, what changed? Why did you give that up? And it's just like, because like when I actually learned that there was no such thing as a Palestine, and like everyone was just going along with the wave, it was like, this is ridiculous. What am I even supporting over here? Right? When a person is totally ignorant of life or anything, like how on earth are you gonna like when you have these like moral conversations with again teenagers, work with teenagers, and I try to not be like they come and they say dumb things. I'm like, "Yeah, I shouldn't be so hard on you. You didn't choose your own hashkafa. You were taken for a ride in your school. That was your surrounding. They told you what to believe. So how do you know any better? That's just what it is, right?" So a person opens up Torah and they learn Torah and they're like, wow, this is the emes. This is coming directly from Hashem himself. That'll anchor a person. The rationale behind this is that the Creator, blessed be His name, who created the evil inclination in man, also created the Torah as an antidote. As our sages of blessed memory have said in Kedushin, Kedushin, I've created the evil inclination. I've created the Torah as its antidote. As in the Yetzer Hara, the way to fight the Yetzer Hara is dragging him into the base medrash. When a person is learning Torah and they're inspired by the emes, by Hashem's reality, by Hashem's direction in life, by the blueprint of life as the Torah, that's what keeps a person sane. It keeps them stable. It keeps them locked into the things that matter. And that's ultimately that's going to be our saving grace. And a person who does not make set time to learn Torah, again, they like those who again come off of TJJ. Find me somebody who comes off TJJ and they don't come at all consistently to learning where the grinding happens. I've never who's okay. Who's still maintaining that level of connection and perspective. It doesn't happen. It doesn't exist. Person has to come back and be kovea itim Torah. They have to set aside established time for learning Torah and never relinquish it, even if they don't feel it, because staying connected to Torah is going to anchor them, and they're not going to lose their minds. Thus, it's obvious that and lose themselves ultimately lose their neshama in this world and in the next. Thus, it's obvious that if the Creator created this antidote solely for this disease, it's not possible under any circumstance for a person to be healed without this cure. Now, this is very, very important, fundamental. We're learning about the architect of the world and morality, Hashem's way. And as I said before, you don't have to believe in gravity for it to break your face. Hashem is the architect of this world. He understands. He created the Yetzer Hara. He knows how he works. He knows how he operates. So the mashal he's going to use right now with the doctor is also very, very helpful because we have to come to that realization. Even non-Jews who tap into Chachma of Torah, they're tapping into Torah Chachma. Like again, you find me any person who came up with any theory that's good and a healthy and non-evil theory, then and I'll find it for you exactly where it exists in the Torah. I even remember when I was taking my advanced psychology course in college, advanced clinical psychology, and every theory that we would discuss, I'm like, that's not him. That's Shlomo Melech. Like anything you come up with, I'm like, these are concepts in the Sifrei Musar and Machshava. Like I don't know, like, but okay, we're gonna give credit to that guy who lived 100 years ago, not the guy who spoke about it in his farm, 2,500 years ago. So he who expects to be saved without this is mistaken, and he will perceive his mistake in the end when he dies for his sin. The evil inclination is truly powerful within man, and without man's awareness, it can become progressively more powerful than him until eventually it rules over him. And yes, we spoke about that before. People who are so caught up into their Yetzer Hara that they don't even know that they're having a fight anymore, right? When you feed the Yetzer Hara over years and years, you keep feeding into it and allow it to run your life. Yes, eventually it's checkmate. You get to a place where what it would take to pull you out of that state is some horrific life event that's going to wake you up. You give yourself, and at that point, it's like, what am I going to do with it anymore? It rules over you. There's nothing, there's not even to talk about with those individuals. Even if a person tries every manner to cure it, if he doesn't apply the antidote that was created for this, namely the Torah, as I have written, he will only recognize and feel the worsening of his sickness when he dies of his sins and his soul perishes. God forbid. This is like the case of a sick person who consulted with doctors who diagnosed his sickness and prescribed him a specific medication for him. And he, without the knowledge of medicine, ignored the prescription and took whatever medicine he considered appropriate. The patient will surely die, right? You have an infection and you're like, haha, I'm going to put on a band-aid. I'm going to have Tums, Like, if you have a sickness, you go to a doctor and a doctor tells you this is what's wrong. This is the antidote. Hashem, who is the creator, the architect of the human being, and put the neshama in the body and gave it a Yetzer Hara, he's telling you exactly everything that's the antidote to him is Torah learning. That is, it's literally what's going to keep you honest and sane. And by the way, this is what's even crazier. This is a deeper level, but the Yetzer Hara can even use Torah knowledge and Torah learning even against his own person, right? So as the heroes is the ikar to always make sure you're doing this cheshbon nefesh, this reality check, and you know exactly, what's going on in the world. The same is true of our situation. One can diagnose the malady of the evil inclination and its inherent power. No one can diagnose the malady, the disease of the evil inclination, its inherent power, other than the Creator who has created it. Who would know better? The person who made it or not? And he's forewarned us that the only cure is the Torah. Can anyone expect to live if he puts this aside and substitutes it with anything else? The darkness of the material world will certainly overpower him step by step, yet he will not comprehend this until he finds himself entrenched in evil and so far removed from the truth that it will not even occur to him to pursue the truth. And again, that's when it's game over, checkmate. Very, very scary reality if a person gets to that state. However, if he's involved in Torah study, he will become familiar with its ways, its positive commandments, its prohibition, and ultimately this will reawaken him with the motivation and he will move in the right direction. And this is what a blessed memory, our sages of blessed memory have said. I would have hoped that even when abandoning me, they would at least have kept my Torah, for the light within it returns them to good. And that is very, very much true. The Torah is the roadmap to be able to find your way back home. Right? If I lost the ship but I'm holding on to the anchor, I just got to follow that and I'll find my way. One must also include here specific times and for the assessment of one's action and their corrections as I've written above. So Torah learning and the Cheshbon Nefesh. And both of these, and we said this before, both of these need to have set established times for it. I learn at this time, right? I come to shir, 9:30 Mondays, that's it. Oh, what do you want to do this night? I want to go out. Nope, I'm sorry, I got shir. It's set, it's established. It drives me crazy, but so many people who put, yeshiva and the learning programs, they put it at such a, lower priority. It's like, oh, I have a lot of homework. Your homework is not more important than you being consistent in your learning. I'm sorry, it's just not. It's just not. I'm sorry, but it's a priority thing. Oh, I have this and I have my friends. Again, there could be things that could come up, but your priorities, I need to stay connected to my Torah, and it needs to be a designated time for it so that I don't lose myself. I need to make sure that I have that insurance policy in place. Also, the cheshbon nefesh, the place where I go, that's my thinking place, my happy place. I have to evaluate my actions in my life and my conduct and see where I'm holding as a person. These things need to be scheduled times for them so that you don't lose yourself. So much about being successful in Yiddishkeit, so much of it is order, it's seder, especially for a man. You wake up, there's an order in the morning of how you get dressed, how you get prepared. Halacha dictates exactly what we're supposed to do. You have zmanim, you have davening 3 times a day. There is a structure that you as a soldier of Hashem can find yourself in the mold and you can thrive within that structure. If a person says, hey, I'll learn willy-nilly whenever I have an opportunity, hey, whenever I grab and pick up that book, you're never going to be successful that way. No one's ever done it like that. So you have to be a set established time for Torah learning and for the Cheshbon Nefesh. Has to be, or a set time to speak to your Rebbe, whatever it is. But there has to be time so that way you put a reminder in your phone and your calendar so that you do not lose yourself like that. Apart from this, he will If he is wise, he will not lose whatever remaining time is available to him. Rather, he must urgently seize the time available and utilize it diligently for the spiritual growth and for the perfection of divine service. This factor of worldly involvement and preoccupation, although most common, is also the easiest to avoid for anyone who puts his mind to it, which is very, very true. We are in control of our time. One of the definitions of maturity to me is how a person conducts themselves with their time. It's very interesting when people run off the 13th grade, their freshman year in college. You have a lot of free time. It's like the college experience. But how much of the week are you in class? No, there's a lot of free time. What do you do with your free time? Same thing in yeshiva and seminary, by the way. It's a lot of free time. There's a lot of, you get to be in control of your time. How do you use your time? You're using it productively. Are you responsible for your time? To me, that's one of the biggest tests of maturity. How a person conducts their time. So if a person looks at their time and they say, okay, we have this we do this all the time where it's like, hey, I have an hour to get my work done. I get it work done. If I was given 3 hours to get my work done, I would do it in 3 hours, right? Shabbos starts at 5 o'clock. Shabbos starts at 9 o'clock. I always just make it. We as human beings, we adapt to those type of things. So when you set up yourself up for success, you give yourself structure, right? For myself, like the way that I can increase Torah learning over time, it's very intimidating for me to look at an entire, volume of something. So I do my things, right? I have my Seder a day. I'll have my Chavrusa. I'll do my halacha of the day. I will do the whatever the Chumash and Rashi, whatever the day is in that. I will do my Mishnah Yomi. I'll do my two Mishnayos a day. I'll read the book every single month. I've done that. I'm doing that because that consistency will make sure that I'm always connected to Torah. If I become lazy or whatever it is, and I put other things in front, right, or I get carried away on your phone like this or Netflix, whatever it is, right? That's what we're talking about to suck you out of that world. You can protect yourself by setting yourself up for success by making sure that you're setting up your structure, you're being productive with your time. That's something that's so, so important. But every single person, no matter who, every single Jew should have a set established time in which they learn. If some people leave the book on their dresser, before they go to sleep, they'll read a chapter, they'll read a paragraph, they'll read a page, they'll read for 5 minutes, whatever it is. But a person has to be connected consistently to their Torah learning, or else they will totally lose themselves. Okay. So that is the end of the first one. The second one, it's a little bit lengthy. So let's begin the second one next week, which is the Leitzanos and the Haschaik, someone who is laughter, basically the value of laughter and lightheadedness, frivolousness, listless. I don't know. I'm just gonna use the Hebrew words because I can't even pronounce, nor do I even know what they mean. But we'll continue next week, Mizrat Hashem, with the second element. But just as a recap, that's the very first one. As a general consensus, we have to be very careful with the level of involvement that we have in worldly things. It does not mean that it's wrong. There's people are just like, oh, you're supposed to learn all day and you shouldn't work. No, in Torah and Kemach. It says it in Pirkei Avos, the person you can't derech eretz kadmei Torah. You have to be a person in this world for sure. Question is are you balanced? Are you healthy? Is your time balanced correctly? Are you going for a ride? Have you lost sight of what the end is? Those are the type of things that a person has to be very, very cautious about. How do you set yourself up for success? Torah learning, scheduling, making sure that you're connected to Torah. You take the plug out of the wall, the iPhone's gonna die. There's no other way. You gotta be on top of those things. Tov, we'll continue next week. Any questions for this week? I'm assuming this direct message I should not read out loud, right? Okay. All right, Shkoyach, thank you guys. It's been a long day. Thank God. But the faithful are here. Tough. Do, 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 do.